Hi, this is Kim from Emerging Creatively Tutorials, and this is ECT TV, episode 46. So today we are going to be making a spiral pendant, and when I was thinking about this tutorial, I searched my website, and I have more than 10 tutorials that are jewelry making that involve spirals. So I really love spirals, and I was thinking about why I like spirals so much. Yeah, they look cool, but they also have a lot of symbolism. And so I did some research on that. And first, before I tell you what I found, I just wanted to say what I think about as spirals are I think of it as your life's journey. So you kind of spiral around and you kind of end up in the same places again, but you have a better understanding the next time you get there. So you may find yourself in the same kind of position again, but this time it's going to work out so much better for you because you have all the wisdom and experience from the previous time you've been through this. So that's how I think of a spiral, but let me tell you some of my research, what I found out on the internet when I was looking, and I'm just telling you this in case there's something that resonates more with you. And then when you're wearing your spiral pendant, it's not just a cool necklace, it has a lot of symbolic meaning for you. So I wrote down some notes, so I'm going to look at them. So one thing that kept coming up was kind of a spiritual meaning for it, and this kind of means the path from your outside to your inside. So kind of your ego to enlightenment or that sort of thing. So that's one thing. And in a similar way, it can also show the consciousness of nature, starting from a core and then kind of coming outward, expanding outwardly. So, you can think of different things in nature, and that's what happens. An acorn becomes a tree, that sort of thing. It also means growth, evolution, coming back to the same point in your life, but with better understanding. So I was glad that I found that because that's what I think of it as. A big thing about spirals is it kind of symbolizes feminine energy, the womb, fertility, that sort of thing. Also, it represents constant change. And this one I love: harmony, beginning, concentration, and focus. So sometimes that is an issue for me. I lose my focus a little bit, so I might think of my spiral as helping me focus. And this one I also love. It also symbolizes journey, direction, and progress. Also, quite often you find it symbolizes infinity. And then another thing that comes up quite a bit is it's very prevalent in Celtic symbolism. So in the Celtic world, it means birth, development, and expansion. And I actually think the reason I am drawn to spiral so much is that at one point in my life I was very drawn to Celtic jewelry, and there are a lot of spirals in that kind of jewelry, and it's actually part of my heritage too. So there are some ideas, there are some things that the spiral symbolizes. So maybe one of those things speaks to you, and if it doesn't, that's fine. You can just make a cool piece of jewelry. We're going to get to the tutorial in just a second here, but I wanted to first make sure you knew about something new I have for you. I have a new e-workshop called the Beaded Spiral Pendant Workshop. It is different than this this tutorial I'm going to teach you because it has beads and it has a little bit of a different technique, and it is beautiful. I love these pendants. So It's perfect for advanced beginners, which I know a lot of you are, to intermediate. If you're a brand new jewelry maker or you haven't ever worked with wire before, you may find this challenging. But if you do the tutorial I'm about to show you, then you're on your way. You should be fine and find it a lot of fun to make the beaded spiral pendant e-workshop. And just so you know, an e-workshop, it actually works very similar to what I'm doing right here with this ECT TV episode. When you make your purchase, you will get a PDF from me in your email, and in that PDF ebook you will find the tutorial in photos, close-up, concise directions, but you'll also find the link to the private password protected video that shows you the tutorial of the beaded spiral pendant. So you'll find that over at my website at KimberlyKoehler.com. I'll put the link below, and just so you know, all of these ECT TV episodes, I actually send out a free PDF ebook that has step-by-step photo instructions to my newsletter subscribers. So make sure you're signed up for my newsletter to get those PDFs. And if you want the beaded spiral pendant e-workshop, then you just want to head over to my website at KimberlyKoehler.com. All right, thanks, and let's get on to the tutorial. So here is what we're making. These are spiral pendants, and I just sort of wanted to show you, these are all kind of similar, but I made this one kind of tinier, and it's adorable, and then we have some larger ones. These are all I hammered flat, and I'm going to explain this in a second. This one is still kind of round. I didn't hammer it flat. So there's kind of a difference. And also, as I'll explain in just a second, you could use different gauges of wire to make these pendants kind of bigger or smaller, depending how you would like them to be. So let me first show you what you're going to need for this. So we're making this pendant completely out of wire, and you'll be using 16 gauge wire. I'm using round, dead soft wire, and that's probably only one you use because 16 gauge is thicker and it can tend to be harder to deal with. So a nice soft gauge is more bendable. And you can actually use other gauges of wire, like I mentioned before. If you want to use a thicker wire, you're going to have a thicker spiral. I would also suggest 14 gauge, and however thick you want to go, you can go ahead. If you use a thinner gauge wire, your spiral of course is going to be smaller, so you might want to try 18 gauge if you want a smaller wire. I wouldn't go too much smaller than that though, because you know, you want the spiral to be able to maintain its shape. But this is really the only material you'll need. And then the tools you'll need are wire cutters, round nose pliers, and then chain nose pliers. And then I'm not going to really get into this for this tutorial, but then for whatever you want to hang your pendant off of. So you might want a cord or a chain, so you can just use whatever chain you have if that's what you want to do, or maybe like a cotton cord like I have here, which I use, and it looks pretty cool with the black cord. Whatever you want to use is fine. Additionally, you will need a steel block of some sort, or if you have an anvil, you can use that. It does not need to be this big. I know some people have smaller ones. I actually have a tiny one too. And then you'll need a hammer. So you'll either need a chasing hammer, which has a flat tip here, as well as the ball peen on the other end. We'll be using this end. If you want to flatten your pendant so it's flat, this is the hammer you're going to want to use. Or you can use a rawhide or a rubber hammer, and this will allow the pendant to retain the wire to retain its round shape instead of flattening it down, but it hardens it so that it is strong. So you can decide which hammer you would like to use. To get started, we are going to work right off this coil of wire, meaning we're not going to cut any off when we're making our spiral. We're going to work right off of this coil. We are, however, going to just cut the very end to make sure it has a nice flush cut. So to do that, you want to use kind of the flat end of your wire cutters, the flat side. There's two sides. If you cut from this side, it's a pinch cut. This side, it's a flush cut. And that's toward the work, so toward the wire. So I'm just going to make that cut. Try not to let your wire fly. And now we're going to grab our round nose pliers. So we're going to start by making a loop, and that will be the center of the spiral. It doesn't really matter what size you make that loop, except the fact, if it matters to you how large your center is. So I'm talking about this middle part here. That's the beginning of where we'll start the spiral. So the larger you want it, the closer you want to start it toward the handle. The smaller, you want to go toward the tip. So I want mine to be smaller, so I'm going to hold the wire kind of in the tip, toward the tip, in between the pliers here. These are my round nose pliers. And then you want the wire to be at the top of the pliers, so at the top up here, but not poking through. So when you run your finger over, you shouldn't feel the wire. And then we're going to twist away with our wrists twist away with the wrist that is holding the pliers, and at the same time with this hand, I'm going to use my thumb to wrap the wire around the pliers. So you just start out by going as far as your wrist will let you, and then you let go, readjust, and then just make sure your pliers are up in that very tip of this hook you've made, and then you just complete the loop. So it's kind of a backwards P or a P. And now we are going to grab our chain nose pliers, and then you're going to hold that loop in your chain nose pliers. And now we're just going to spiral around this original loop. So to do that, you're just going to kind of push up with your thumb, and then you just readjust and push up. You kind of have to hold on tightly to this loop, and it kind of seems slow at first so you get the hang of it. And this is just what you're going to do. You're going to just go a little bit at a time and readjust. So you kind of let go of the loop, move your chain nose pliers back over, and then you push it up, move your chain nose pliers again, and you keep going around. And you just want to make sure you're trying to keep this all nice and tightly wound together. You make your spiral. And I like to just kind of move my pliers over toward the side when I'm holding it. As the spiral gets bigger, this will become more important. It just gives you a little more control. And I'm kind of just working close to the spiral, so I'm not like up here trying to twist it. I'm like right here, just pushing up that wire with my thumb. And here you get to make a choice as well. You can decide how large you want your pendant to be. The larger it gets, the more difficult it is to keep the spirals from kind of coming apart. So the larger it gets, you know, the more likely that this part will kind of pull apart and get a little bit looser. In fact, on this pendant, I don't know how well you can see, my last kind of spiral around is not super close. It's not like right touching against it. It came out a little bit. It doesn't really bother me, but if that bothers you, just keep that in mind. And so we're just going to keep doing this until we get it to the size that we would like. And I would say mine's about the size of a quarter or so, and I think this is about as large as I would like it to be. And then you just want to grab your wire cutters again, and again making a flush cut, which will be toward the spiral, so toward the work. And you want to leave a little bit of a tail because we're going to make a loop. I'm just going to go ahead and cut that and move this to the side. Okay, so now we're just going to make a loop on the end here, which is how we'll hang our pendant. So just like before, I'm going to make my loop a little bit bigger so I know that I can slip a chain in there easily, or a cord, whatever you're going to hang your pendant from. So I'm putting my wire closer to the handle, and again, you just want to put the wire up so it's at the top but not poking through, and we're twisting away our wrist, readjust, and then complete the loop. Now if you find you have a little bit more space here, you can just go ahead and use your pliers to get it in close. Alright, and now I am going to twist this loop at the top so it's perpendicular, so it's kind of all flat this way, and I'm going to twist it so it's this way. And then just make sure this is closed. Okay, so now we're going to hammer this. Okay, so I have my steel block, and I am using a chasing hammer, which I explained before will kind of hammer this wire flat, which I like that look. If you would like to keep it in its kind of the wire in its round shape, then you'd want to choose a rawhide or a rubber kind of nylon, whatever hammer. So I'm not going to talk while I'm hammering, but I am going to hammer this spiral part, and then I'm going to flip it and hammer the other side, and I'm just going to hold so this loop here is off to the side. Alright, so now I'm going to hammer. Okay, so how much you have to hammer to get this how you would like it to be depends probably upon how hard you're hammering. So maybe if you're a little stronger than me, it won't take as much time, but if you aren't hammering as hard, it might take you a little more. And my loop got a little weird here, so I'm just going to go ahead and fix it. Okay, and while I was also hammering it, sometimes when you're making your spiral, it will kind of not be flat like this. So when you're hammering, you can fix that too. Now, if you want, you can hammer this part too. Just hold it like that. And then you kind of have a more universal hammered look. And I will warn you that this is what happens usually when you hammer your loop. It will kind of come apart, and then it's much harder to work with to fix it. So you may not even wish to hammer it. So that is the spiral pendant. That's all there is to it. I have made several for myself because they're so much fun to make. You can just slide this on a chain or I'm using this black cord. And then you have a necklace that's simple but beautiful and has a lot of symbolism and meaning. So have fun, and remember to follow me on Instagram. My name there is Kimberly Kohler, KimberlyKohler. And if you make this project and post it to Instagram, use the hashtag ECT TV. There are 2 T's, so ECT TV. And I will see them and everybody can see what you're making. So have fun, and I will see you in a couple of weeks.